Yo, what is good, everybody? It is your boy, Golden Falls, Golden What If, whatever you want to call me. And I'm back. Yeah, I am back. This is part 3 of What If Deku Was The Flash. And as always, if you enjoy, show some love. Leave a like, leave a sub, leave a comment down below. All that good stuff. And, yeah, I mean, I don't know how many more parts this has. I know for sure it has one more. It might have a 5th. I don't know. It depends. When I pace these videos out, I don't really, think too hard about when I want to end it, or if there's going to be a predetermined stopping point. And sometimes like I said before, sometimes I'll go through every single arc. Sometimes I'll stop at a specific point because of certain aspects of the story, stuff like that. But yeah, not sure when this will end. I for sure will have one more part. Not sure if that's going to be the finale or not, but just wanted to say that real quick. With that said, I want to get right into where we left off, so I'm not going to waste much more of your time. So let's get into the what if. Let's get it. Izuku Midoriya is still kind of subdued or in a hospital. He's taking some time to train, but also to fully recover, because that's a big thing that he's going to have to do. It seems like the damage he actually took was a lot worse than anyone possibly imagined, especially because they all know that Izuku does have a bit of a speed-like healing factor that makes major injuries seem like minor injuries. Now, he is not completely out of commission. He's not out cold and on a bed having to sleep off for days, but he's still kind of dealing with what occurred. I mean, he just dealt with a speedster beating the absolute hell out of him, and at the same time dealing with somebody he has no idea who they are. But of course, he continues his normal training regimen and also works with the support heroes to actually utilize some sort of speed-like enhancer. Some actually really genius support hero by the name of Mei Hatsume is currently working on this for Izuku, and they call it some sort of tachyon accelerator or tachyon, some sort of assistant mobile device on his chest, or is at least going to be on his chest when it's completely finished. It's supposed to boost his speed quite considerably and also make sure that he can actually stand up to this so-called reverse flash. Now, there isn't any guarantees. Let's say there's no guarantees that this reverse flash is going to be slower than Izuku with this tachyon sort of enhancer, but at the same time, it is going to help Izuku with training and also help him with just getting faster in general, which is a main thing he's going to have to do. Now, there are a couple things going on in terms of the final exams and stuff like that, but Izuku isn't really associated with those very much. Now, he is partially, and Aizawa does test him, but it's kind of a totally different exam. He's tested in his abilities and his strengths, his weaknesses, and also how he can approach the fight with, well, this reverse flash. Now, this is what's really important right now, because Aizawa understands that this is beyond really what any of the other heroes could deal with. He knows that this person isn't utilizing your traditional quirk, or at least it's not something that they know of to a large extent. I mean, the assumption is that if Aizawa can somehow look at this person, they could cancel their speed outs. But is that 100% true? Because, well, if Aizawa can even get a look at them, and that's a big if, what if there is no cancel out? They can't use that as a end-all, be-all, so they need to make sure that Izuku is completely ready, and the best way to do that is have him continuously train at UA High School. Normally, the students would go off to a some sort of forest-type training place, but this time around, that's not the case at all. They believe that it's just not useful enough for him to go there. But unfortunately, this would actually be a detriment for the kids that end up going to the forest training camp. Because soon the forest training camp would get raided by a bunch of villains, and the one person that they're actually looking for, or, well, the main person they're looking for, being that of Izuku Midoriya, is actually not there. Shigaraki, Dabi, and many others of these villains showing up and absolutely wreaking havoc. I mean, this is a terrible thing. The difference here is that Izuku has nothing to do with it. I mean, he literally cannot do anything about it, actually not even knowing that it's currently happening. So eventually things would go completely awry, and luckily enough, some other heroes were actually instated within the forest training camp, because the fact that Izuku took on a brand new foe and someone that is absolutely terrifying in terms of having to deal with. Now, luckily enough, not many people are extremely hurt. There are some pretty bad mental or mental booms, you could call it, or mental torture going on, just because, I mean, people of Class 1A and many others have been dealing with quite a few scary events, which is definitely not fun for them, but still, they're able to get through it, and eventually they would all head back to UA. But when they get back, they make it very clear that no one is to say anything to Izuku. Act as if they didn't even come back, and act as if nothing happened. Because, well, his brother, or more or less a brother, that in Bakugo has been kidnapped. And they cannot allow Izuku to just run off and try to find him, especially with probably the anger that he's going to have for the fact that his brother is now kidnapped. And that's a big thing. They want to make sure that they do not allow that to happen. But of course, keeping secrets for that long is very difficult when you have the press, because the press begins to release statements, and Izuku would be dragged into it and eventually hear those statements, and everybody would hear about Bakugo, Katsuki Bakugo being kidnapped. Izuku would immediately look at Aizawa and look at the other people, and they don't even know what to say. Aizawa activates his quirk, and Izuku still is able to run off, basically clarifying his own idea of stopping the Reverse Flash, not being able to because their quirks aren't necessarily what they think they are, or at least they're not necessarily quirks at all. Izuku would dash off and would begin looking for Bakugo. He's in his suit with a tachyon enhanced suit, and he begins to just scour the entirety of Japan. He's looking for Bakugo as fast as possible, sprinting through the streets, every nook and cranny. He looks through every last bit of it. There's not a single spot he wants to miss, because if he misses a single spot, then his brother could die. But as he's running through the streets and eventually stumbles across an area that looks highly suspicious, he would stop and look through a window, and as he does, he sees Bakugo in a chair chained up. Now, immediately he thinks to himself, what is the best course of action? But as he's about to more or less think about this, he feels a hand grab his shoulder, and he turns, getting thrown at a building. He would smash into the building, and the Reverse Flash would be there waiting for him, saying that he's not going to save another person when he couldn't even save them. Izuku would stand up and shout at the Reverse Flash, telling them that they need to basically shut their mouth, that he's here to save his brother, that he doesn't know what happened in the future. He doesn't know what happened way in the front of time, but he doesn't care. This is not his priority right now. That is his priority. And immediately the Reverse Flash would stop talking, standing still, not saying even a single word, but eventually would disappear and then reappear once again with Bakugo in one hand and a vibrating hand in the other, saying that if he wants to save his brother so badly, he's going to have to catch them. Immediately dashing off with Bakugo in one arm and not allowing Izuku to get close. But soon Izuku could feel the effects of not only the training but the tachyon enhancement slowly but surely ramping up and also catching up to the Reverse Flash. Heroes would get wind of this as Bakugo is getting raced through the city and Izuku is fighting over his brother, actually getting him once in a while, kicking the Reverse Flash away, and sometimes even getting the upper hand. But it's never that easy. Izuku continues to try to track down the Reverse Flash, and with this whole, kind of rampage going on, All For One sees this as the best time to show face. And a fight between All For One and All Might would then go on, and many things would begin to hit the fan. Nomu's attacking, villains everywhere, the League of Villains trying to actually end this right here and right now. Many different things occur as Izuku chases down the Reverse Flash, trying to stop them from hurting or killing Bakugo. But eventually Bakugo would actually get the upper hand, because Bakugo would be quote-unquote out cold, or at least acting that way. And when the Reverse Flash stops and tries to basically taunt Izuku, Bakugo would immediately shoot an explosion at them, just exploding them into a wall and actually tearing part of the suit. Izuku would immediately dash over to Bakugo, asking if he's okay, and he tells Izuku to shut up, that he's fine, because they have a bigger threat at hand right now. They look back at the Reverse Flash to see that part of the mask is actually torn, seeing that there is actually hair popping out of it, looking like it's kind of a longer hairstyle. They're not sure who this is, but as they turn, or as the Reverse Flash turns their head, it seems like it's actually a woman, but it's a woman with white hair and what seems to be a shaved down horn. They're not sure who this is, what this is, or who this person is, but once the mask is, or the person is slightly revealed, the person panics and begins to vibrate extremely quickly and dashes off, not fighting anymore. Izuku and Bakugo have no idea who this person is and no idea what they're doing here. Now, Izuku would question who they think this is, and I mean, this is a person that is more or less involving in their future, or at least his future, and Bakugo would kind of question it as well, saying that if basically this is someone that he doesn't get to save, can they fix it by saving them? I mean, it has to be a major event. He tells Izuku once again that it has to be an event that is truly massive for them to turn out like an evil speedster. I mean, what kind of thing would occur for something like that to happen? Now, as they're having this conversation, a fight with All For One and All Might is still on, and it's raging to its climax. It seems like Izuku begins to dash over with Bakugo and soon realizes that the League of Villains is actually helping All For One actually quite a bit. And this is making it so All Might is having a ton of struggles. Actually, so much so that he has an injured arm and might even lose it entirely, because Shigaraki is looking to actually disintegrate it as they speak. But quickly Izuku would dash over there, telling Bakugo to back him up as they dash over together, as he grabs Bakugo, runs over, and then lets him kind of go, fight on his own. But immediately would dash over, knocking out most of the villains and rounding them up. But also Bakugo would do the same, helping cut down the large group of League of Villains, or just the large group of villains in general. And Izuku would tie up a ton of the villains and begin to dash away with them. All For One isn't even able to react necessarily, seeing a chance to actually kill All Might, so he hesitates. And when he hesitates, Shigaraki and many others that are currently there trying to help All For One finish the job are taken away without even a blink of an eye. He immediately would try to react right after Izuku dashes away, running at insane speeds, but as he tries to, he gets nailed with a punch, and then All Might winds up his vintage United States of Smash, smashing him straight into the ground. All For One would stagger, and he's on the ground completely just nullified. He's looking in the distance and tries to make a portal for the villains that are getting taken away, but unfortunately he's unable to do so, thinking to himself right before he gets captured and put away that he really messed up, and that this other speedster has truly screwed him over. Because All For One may be able to predict a ton of things, more than you could possibly imagine, but he can never predict someone coming from the future and interrupting his plans. Now, All for One would be put in prison, including all of the League of Villains, and that includes Mr. Shigaraki himself and everyone else that is involved in this certain scenario. Now, Izuku is kind of in trouble. I mean, at the end of the day, so is Bakugo, and many of them are pretty in trouble for doing what they did. But we all know that there is some leniency for it just overall. But Izuku has shown that he is a good person and a great hero on multiple occasions. So he's still given the opportunity to kind of fix things in terms of, just having to deal with things overall. But Aizawa does say that his punishment is to clean all the dorms that they're going to be actually utilizing. And luckily enough, Izuku has a super speed type of quirk, or a super speed ability, so he said it won't take too long, but there are tons and tons of dorms, in which Izuku is not happy with, but he does fly through all the rooms, cleaning them spotless, and it would take him maybe 20 minutes, but 20 minutes is quite a bit for Speedster time, because in Speedster time, he had to literally sit there and painstakingly clean every single dorm. To everyone else, it was so fast, but to him, wow, it was slow as hell. That's for sure. Now, after cleaning everything up and after all of that is said and done, there is actually some very important news. And that's actually the introduction of work studies. Now, for starters, you have the big three, being that of Mirio, Tamaki, and also Nejire, who are there talking to Class 1A and everybody else that is attending. Now, they do have some conversations, but Tamaki is kind of socially awkward. Nejire gets off topic extremely fast, talking about Mina, her little horn-like things, and also Izuku himself, being that he is a speedster, and the whole supervillain thing that he's been dealing with. And eventually Mirio has to butt in and say that he'll have everybody here fight him. Now, he's not sure, or Izuku's not sure, what this is going to accomplish, but he just goes out with his class and gets ready to take on Mirio. But before they can actually do so, Izuku is pulled aside by Aizawa, telling him to sit out of this one, that this is not the fight that he wants. And Izuku is confused, but Aizawa says that if he fights, that it's not going to be necessarily fair, that he should really get a one-on-one with someone like Mirio. In which that is a pretty damn big compliment from someone like Aizawa, so he kind of just shrugs it off and nods, telling Aizawa that he understands. He watches as his entire class gets beat senseless by this guy that can phase in and out of the ground and feels metrically impossible to touch. But then after it's all said and done, Izuku asks for a turn against him. Aizawa would say that's no problem at all as long as it's one-on-one, and Izuku takes on Mirio 1 versus 1. Now, this is a fight that is insane, because Izuku's super speed actually allows him to close the distance and allows him to actually land multiple punches on Mirio. Now, Mirio tries to just utilize his own quirk, Permeation, to its fullest extent in terms of not allowing him to hit him, but trying to react to Izuku is no easy task. I mean, it's honestly a task that is basically impossible. So he tries to just stay permeated at least the entire time, and then as Izuku misses, he tries to follow up, but that's even impossible in itself. He's never fought someone like this, or at least not to this level of speed. It's as if Izuku is just way too good, or just way too overpowered. Now, Mirio would land a couple blows, but these couple hits that he does land would actually involve him taking a ton of blows himself, taking a ton of hits himself, so he can actually retaliate with one of his own. But quickly he would realize that Izuku not only is an incredible talent, but is someone that should definitely be put in a situation to actually be working with the highest level of work study, being that of Sir Nighteye. And that's something he thinks about after the whole fight is said and done, and he's going to tell Sir Nighteye the potential of this kid. And after the whole fight, he tells Izuku that he's going to put a good word in and hopefully get him a work study opportunity. He thanks him and says that if he can't get it done, it's okay, but he would love to work with alongside him and also Sir Nighteye, someone who's worked so closely with All Might, in which that excites Izuku Izuku, but of course Aizawa tells him that there are some other matters at hand, because at the end of the day, he does love to do superhero things when he's not allowed to do superhero things, so they need to all train for their Provisional Hero License exam, in which everyone's excited, and Izuku says that he's been training for this forever and continues to do so, in which Aizawa says that he knows and that he should be ready, and it's really the other kids that need to get whipped into shape, in which that's why all of them will be training with Izuku, and all of them will be dealing with his speed to a large degree. He tells Izuku that he's only allowed to use about 10 to 15% of his speed, but he's going to train with them constantly, every single one of them. And that's an added to his punishment. So he's going to have to basically help them all with their super moves and basically help them all train by getting beat. By getting beat to a small degree, because let's be honest, just because you're using 10-15% of your speed and you're extremely still fast, it doesn't mean you're not going to get hit. And if you have to take on like 30 different students or 30 different aspiring heroes, you're still going to take quite a bit of damage nonetheless. I mean, he may be talented, he may be extremely fast, but he is going to take damage nonetheless, and that's just a fact. Now, he would help everybody and get everyone prepared, and eventually they would go ahead and take on the Provisional Hero Licensing exam, which is kind of an interesting one, and one that Izuku is kind of confused about. And only reason why he is confused about it is because one of them is actually involving basically throwing these red balls and tagging people with them and lighting up their kind of lights on their chest. It's as if it's laser tag, but not really laser tag. It's with throwing balls like dodgeball. He doesn't get it, but he begins to think that like he could literally just run around, tag 3 people and be done with it. But he thinks to himself that he's gonna try and help his teammates, and he's actually goes on and helps quite a bit of people in his class actually pass extremely fast. But then he would go to the other side of the area and immediately tag 3 people for himself and then walk to the waiting room, which is extremely an insane flex, because he straight up just shows that he's that much better than most of these people here. And frankly, that even includes someone like Inasa, because yes, Inasa is extremely powerful and extremely awesome and cool, but he's really not anything compared to Izuku, at least in terms of just raw power. And Aizawa would kind of laugh at Ms. Joke, not in this traditional sense of laughing, but in the sense of laughing at her, showing that Izuku is just levels above most of these kids, and also that he even has a couple other students that are pretty damn close, or at least pretty darn close in terms of being a very high level prospect for future heroes. Now, we all know the next portion of this. The next portion would be the rescue-like portion of this exam. And let's just say Izuku would make this thing super easy. Because if we're talking about setting up a camp, Izuku does it within seconds, or at least seconds on the view of everyone else. Now, he would then save a ton of people within seconds as well, and many of them would complain of minor nausea. But of course, this wouldn't go too heavily to his bad score, like, docking off points. Because at the end of the day, minor nausea versus being completely safe, I mean, you got to weigh your kind of options there. And Izuku just dashes around, saving all the people he possibly can. And this would kind of cancel out all of the bad, quote-unquote, detriments that he would get. He would even make sure that Bakugo was doing the right thing all the time, because he knows that Bakugo's anger does get the best of him from time to time, and he's going to make sure that he keeps that, in check as much as possible. Now, this does lead to the very end of the Provisional Hero License exam, and we all know what happens toward the end of it, where we have Gang Orca actually approach and bring a ton of fake villains to take on the heroes that are currently there. Now, we do get a sequence of Todoroki and Inasa not necessarily working together the best, But luckily enough, Izuku is able to kind of chime in and kind of get them to work together, just not completely coherently. Now, they try to, like, use their wind and their fire, and it's obviously not the best thing in the world, and it's borderline absolutely horrible, but they still are able to kind of work together when Izuku starts implementing his own wind funnel that funnels the fire and also Inasa's wind within a giant tornado, encapsulating basically all the villains, and more or less encapsulating all of the villains that are on Gang Orca's side. Even Gang Orca is having a ton of issues with this giant tornado that is currently making him extremely dehydrated. And also on top of that, you have Izuku just absolutely just laying damage on him and also the other villains as well. Now, this would lead to them finding the very end of the exam, and Izuku would feel that he did pretty well, and honestly, the scores would say exactly that, because Izuku would not only pass, but would actually get some of the highest scores really ever seen, or at least gotten close to, if not a perfect score. And everybody would be pretty impressed by this, but let's be honest, he has practically every advantage you could possibly think of, at least in this regard. He literally can super speed everyone out of there. He can set up extremely quick. He can get a ton of things basically done in a matter of seconds, if not at least minutes, and would be able to do a lot of things a lot better than most people just in design. Now, with all that said, he would finally get his provisional hero license, and he's just one step closer to becoming the hero he wants to be. But obviously, he thinks of some things, and that more specifically would be the fact that in the future, he does fail to save this one person. He doesn't know who they are, but he still knows that it's a female, or at least a girl, and he somehow fails to save her. So he's going to somehow have to try to figure out who they are and still try to save her, and also successfully save her in this world, or in this reality. And it's something that's been on his mind, and this is just one step closer to doing just that. And what he doesn't know is that joining Sir Nightaye's agency is the very next step to doing that as well, because that girl will be in arm's reach sooner than you can possibly imagine. One day he would meet, or he would actually have a meeting with Sir Nighteye, and they would have a conversation, and Sir Nighteye would have a lot of respect for him, especially because he helped All Might and also helped save All Might overall. Now, on top of that, he respects his abilities, his backstory, what he's gone through, and everything that has gotten him to this point. Everything. Now, he does test him and wants to see what his speed truly is like, and when he does test him, not even Sir Nighteye's foresight can actually predict and see the things that Izuku is going to do. That's how fast he is. He's able to kind of just overwhelm Sir Nighteye. His physical body is just unable to keep up, and Izuku proves why he's so touted among almost every hero school, and every teacher out there. That's why he's touted in that such high direction, and so highly in general. Izuku is then accepted into Sir Nighteye's agency, and is more or less told what's going to happen and what is happening overall, and that would be dealing with the Shihazaikai, someone that they've been dealing with for a while and still trying to find. But with the help of Izuku, he should be able to actually go through a ton of data and a ton of paperwork and a ton of evidence and all of these things, and it will be able to help them kind of evaluate where he could possibly be. On top of that, we know that him going on kind of these daily patrols will be good experience for Izuku as well. But what he doesn't know is that the data and the analyzing and the evidence, none of that's going to matter, because sometimes all it takes is to be at the right place at the right time, because when Mirio and Izuku go on their very first patrol together, there's someone that they run into, someone that is absolutely terrifying, and that would be Overhaul. But that's not the only person they run into, because the first person that runs into them is a little girl with a horn and with white hair, calling and desperately shaking because she's terrified of the person that is to follow. Mirio would look up to see Overhaul, but also look back to see the girl. And, well, let's just say you can see it in Izuku's eyes that he now understands. He now sees it, and he now knows. This girl is the girl that has been racing, chasing, and also trying to kill him for the last couple years, or at least the last year. And this person was the person that he felt stalking him on the first day of UA. This is the Reverse Flash, but this right here is the girl, the little girl that she once was. But for now, we're going to end the story off here, or part 3 off here, and you'll have to know or see what happens next in part 4, well, in the next part, obviously. So if you enjoyed What If Deku Was The Flash Part 3, show some love, leave a like, leave a sub, leave a comment down below, all that good stuff. I'll try to get part 4 out to y'all as soon as possible. Took a little break with stuff like this. As y'all know, I've been trying to get these videos to basically be like 30 minutes a piece at least, and that does take quite a bit of time in terms of like trying to find a spot in my day where I'm like, okay, I can record for like an hour today. So it is a little bit difficult sometimes, but overall I've been having a lot of fun with these videos, and I hope y'all continue to enjoy them. I got a lot more coming. Like I said, I do have a solo leveling one, and if y'all enjoy solo leveling, I would love to do more what ifs on it, and I think it'll be super fun. It kind of gives me the vibes I got from Shield Hero way back when. So I would love to actually get into doing solo leveling what ifs on the anime, and that's the main thing I do, is make it so it's on the anime. And yeah, that's really all I got to say. I hope you all enjoyed the video, like I said, and I hope all y'all have an amazing day. Later.